I apologize for my foreign accent. I am originally from Poland, but I lived in Ogden for 28 years. I am a community member here. This community is most important to me. And water resources are most important in what I do. I love the three themes that are on the slides for this conference, which is conservation, cooperation, and education. In my presentation, you will see that I support all of the activities that Weber Basin District is doing, but I will ask the district to do even more because we need it. I think it is important for our community just to understand what water resources we have and how we can make the best possible decisions. Just to give you a little bit of information about my background, I am groundwater modeler, so some of the slides that I will show you will be results of groundwater modeling within our local area. I was working also as a senior hydrogeologist for Kennecott Copper Mine, where I was reviewing their groundwater models. Okay, let's see if I know how to do it. So before I start showing really boring things that scientists do, which is charts and graphs, you know, first some fun pictures. So these are pictures from research that I was doing with my students on Great Salt Lake. We have a great database about water chemistry that includes surface water, lake water, and groundwater in Weber County. So if you have any interest, we are more than happy to share this with you. Also, before I move any further, I am your local expert in groundwater, and I would love to talk to any audience that is willing to listen. Groundwater is a tough thing to explain because we don't see it. Groundwater, by its definition, is below the ground surface, and we don't see it every day, but we drink it every day. This is our drinking water, and our community cares about drinking water. I will be just showing some results of groundwater modeling that I did, in fact, in collaboration with Weber Basin about 20 years ago and U.S. Bureau of Reclamation and Utah Geological Survey. So the model itself at that time was designed to help us understand artificial recharge at the mouth of the Weber Canyon. But by chance, on the right side of the slide, we see the area of the model. It includes parts of Great Salt Lake, and it includes a big part of Weber County and Davis County. On this slide, on the right side of the picture, no, left side of the picture, we see different colors that show us primary recharge areas and secondary recharge areas. This is where water from precipitation enters the groundwater. And on the right side of the picture, we have some numbers. And these numbers, they tell us that we kind of understand how much water is moving from surface water to groundwater. There were studies that were done a number of times in the past. There was a wonderful study that was done by U.S. Bureau of Reclamation in 1950s. They flooded the Geneva Pit along the Highway 89, and they were observing how the flooding wave is moving in groundwater toward Great Salt Lake. And that really helped us to understand quite well, you know, what's going on in our groundwater system. On the left side of the picture, we see a facility that is administered by Weber Basin. This is artificial recharge facility where Weber Basin is diverting water from Weber River into groundwater. And there is a very important reason for doing that, and I will explain that in a second. On the right side of the picture, what we see is just a screenshot from the numerical model. We have used more than 100 groundwater wells and geologic information from them to understand the nature of geologic environment. And this is very critical to understand how much groundwater we have, how fast it moves, and where it moves. Just an example, you know, so we look at every well from Division of Water Rights. So thank you, Division of Water Rights, for doing amazing job that you are doing. So we look at every well log that was available at that time. These will be just two screenshots. Some well logs are pretty simple. Other well logs are more involved, and they show a lot of information. We have used all of this information in our numerical model. The table shows chemical composition of surface water and groundwater. This was during the time when we were doing the artificial recharge experiment. One of the goals was to document that our experiment will not impact in any negative way the water quality in our area, so we were able to show it. So the right side of the slide, it shows really probably the two most important things that I would like to communicate with you. The graph in the right upper corner, it shows that groundwater levels in one of the wells in Weber County in the last 75 years declined by more than 100 feet. As we move closer to Great Salt Lake, this decline is getting smaller and smaller, but it's very critical to understand what's going on. So I will use this graph to communicate to you that maybe if we don't change our behavior, we will have enough groundwater only for 40 more years. And that's not good, because we all like to have drinking water. So I will be showing you some data that support this information. I cannot explain better how much I support everything that Weber Basin has been doing for the last decade, maybe 2 decades, to improve our water conservation. I cannot say louder how I support our state legislators' initiative to bring our attention to Great Salt Lake and to water resources, because we should be doing it a long time ago, but it's better now than not at all. Oh, sorry. This chart on the right side, it shows drought cycles in the last more than 100 years. Usually droughts that happened in the last 100 years or so, they lasted between 2 years to maybe 7 years. The last drought was a little bit longer, maybe we could say 20 years long. I would like to bring to your attention the fact that as we look at the record of last 1,000 years, some droughts lasted for 30 years to 50 years in the past. And we should be prepared for extremely long drought, because they did happen in the past and they will happen in the future. Okay? Our understanding of climate change is improving, but it's not perfect. But one thing we know for sure, droughts will continue to happen, wet years will continue to happen. We need to be prepared for both. Left upper corner, just conceptual picture of the Wasatch Mountains and geologic layers and how they continue from east to west toward Great Salt Lake. The picture in the left lower corner, it shows pretty much the same area from the numerical model, where we have all geologic layers established, and then all geologic layers, they have groundwater properties that control how much water, how fast water flows. On the right part of the picture, we see lines of different colors. They show geologic cross-sections. So we looked at information about each of those lines. So there's a lot of knowledge in this set of data. We have 2 major water-bearing layers here in Weber County and Davis County. The one is called Sunset Aquifer, is shallower. The deeper one is called Delta Aquifer. And then we have shallow unconfined aquifer near the surface of the earth. So the groundwater flows in those three major segments. What we use for source of drinking water is water from the Delta aquifer. This is what Weber Basin is providing us, and this is great quality water. But its amount is not unlimited. So we need to be very thoughtful how we manage this great quality resource. So what these maps are showing is the depth of each of the aquifer, the thickness of the aquifer. The details are not important. The important thing is we do have knowledge about all of these data. Okay. So what we did in the model, we didn't look only at groundwater. We look also at surface water because we cannot separate surface water from groundwater. We are all in this together. I love the story that Candice told us about orange in the first talk. Our water resources, this is our orange. We cannot just slice it on 2 or 4 parts. We have to use it together in the best possible way. And it's possible. But we need to share our knowledge with anybody that would listen. We have great community that cares about quality life, but they need information about water resources. So we have some lines that show flow in the Weber River and the Ogden River. The right side of the slide, it shows how much water was produced by Weber Basin in the area of the model at that time. Again, the model was done 20 years ago, but the model also made predictions for the future. And we will see in a moment probably the most important message that I have for our audience. So groundwater is controlled by a number of handful of parameters. One of them is called hydraulic conductivity. When you drive a car, so this is your car velocity, you know, how fast you go. You can go faster, you can go slower. The important part is we do have understanding about hydraulic conductivity in every part or most of the parts of our community. Another important part is in the water cycle, groundwater flows much slower than surface water. And we saw it in 2022 and 2023. In 2022, we had very critical situation in Great Salt Lake. And then in 2023, we had a record amount of snow precipitation, 20% higher than ever recorded in the last 100 years. And then people say, well, we don't have to worry about drought. Wrong. I will show you water levels in several wells from Weber Basin records in 2022 and 2023, 2024. Maybe in some wells, we recovered 1 or 2 feet of elevation. But because we have used more groundwater than we should have, we have lost 100 feet in the last 75 years. So we recovered a very, very tiny portion of our water resources. And our community needs to understand we would need to have 50 years of extreme snow precipitation in a row to recover water resources that we lost in the last 75 years. Now, that is not going to happen. 50 years of record snow precipitation do not happen in a row. That is just not going to happen. These 2 graphs, they show just examples of measured water levels on the left-hand side and modeled water levels on the right-hand side. This is not a perfect match, but it's a reasonable match, which means, you know, our knowledge is not 100% accurate, but it's accurate enough that we can use it to make better decisions as the community, okay? Plus, if we invest more resources in maybe building a better model, we will understand more, but this model is already good enough. This chart just shows in pinkish color measured values in wells, and then blue color that shows modeled values. Sometimes we do not have all of the information about pumping rates from different wells. Sometimes we don't have some other detailed information. So some wells perform better in the model than other wells. But overall, we believe that we can understand the way how groundwater flow in our community quite well. And these maps, so in the left upper corner, this is where things started changing. Until mid-1950s, water levels were not declining in our community, which means the type of economy that we had was in line with natural processes. And then from 1950s, things started to change. The line that is important, let's see if I have, okay. The one line that I will bring your attention to is this line, is the shoreline between Great Salt Lake, okay, and Weber County and Davis County. And this line is about 4255, 4260 elevation, okay? We will remember this number, it's important. And let's see, okay. Then so at the time of artificial recharge, we make predictions that by 2016, this line will move from 4255, 4260, oops, sorry, going back, to this line. This is 4235, 25 to 30 feet lower in 75 years. And now the next important information. 4235, this elevation of water in our main source of drinking water. Great Salt Lake level today is 4192.7. In 1984, where we had flooding from Great Salt Lake, okay, it was 4210. This is our red line. Our water levels in groundwater, they cannot decline below water level in Great Salt Lake because that will reverse the direction of water flow. And water, instead of flowing from the mountains to Great Salt Lake, will flow from the Great Salt Lake to the mountains. How many of you tried to taste water in Great Salt Lake in your lifetime? Yeah, me too. Okay, then it took several gallons of fresh water to get rid of the taste. The moment where groundwater level will decline below water level in Great Salt Lake, we are closed for business. And that's why I commend Weber Basin for having conservation plans. I will show just a couple of slides of them. I think the most ambitious one assumes that we will reduce our water consumption by 36%, something like this, by 2060. And maybe if we use this most conservative approach, maybe we'll be fine. I would still encourage to make another scenario that we will reduce consumption per capita by 50%. And because then maybe we'll have enough water for all of us. Okay, I will skip a couple of slides. So I have stolen some slides from Weber Basin District website. I apologize for that, but I told Darren about this ahead of time. So these are predictions of what will happen in different scenarios, okay, when we conserve water versus when we don't conserve water, okay? Unfortunately, the size of the population in this area is likely to grow. And these charts, they show that because we'll have more human beings, we'll be using more water, even though we are using less water per person. I will just skip those. Oh, all right, I went too far. Okay, the last couple of slides that I wanted to have, I don't know what happened with them, is to show you water levels in wells in the last 3 years. Well, in fact, in the last 75 years, that includes the last 3 years. So when we are closer to the mountains, we lost 100 feet of water elevation. Maybe we recovered 2 to 3 feet as the result of the extreme snow precipitation. As we get closer to the lake, we lost 35 feet of elevation over the last 75 years. We didn't recover any. This one extreme snow precipitation year didn't change anything. And I think with this, I thank you very much for your attention.